Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vincent Esposito, and today we are talking about the first pillar of health, nutrition. So, nutrition is obviously a big part of what I have done in the past, and after looking through all the research and working with people, these are kind of the goals I want to work towards long term. And following this outline will help you kind of live a healthy, long life where you can function at a high level for a very long time. And that's really what we're looking for going forward. Where we want to start is we want to be somewhere between 90 and 95% plant-based. Now, plant-based includes obviously fruits and vegetables, but also includes other things like whole grains. It includes nuts, seeds, and even healthy fats like olive oil, coconut, things of that nature. Now, when we kind of look at a plate, we'll kind of figure out how all that breaks down. You can see that kind of over here on the right. So when you're looking at a plate, and it obviously won't look exactly like this, but just so you get an idea, you're looking at least 50% of your plate being made up of vegetables. You want to get some sort of combination of proteins, maybe between 20 and 25%, and you're looking at the other 20 and 25% being made of fats and fruits. Now, this can be included in a variety of ways, right? Now, proteins, as you might have a question already, if you're eating 90 to 95% plant-based, where are you getting your protein from? Right, so where are we getting that protein from? It's gonna come from beans and legumes for the most part. Now, it can be all different types. A lot of these longest living populations focus on some sort of bean or legume as a staple in their diet. So we're talking about things like chickpeas, lentils, even things that are made of soy, so things like tofu, tempeh. We are going to get into this later on, but if you are going to have a soy or a soy-based product, you really need to make sure it's organic, and even then, especially here in the States, it's something you want to watch out for. So beans and legumes of all types, we're talking lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, all of them, black beans, black-eyed peas, peas in general. All of these are awesome sources of protein, and you can actually get all the different types of proteins you need, because I know this is a big thing with proteins, is to get a complete protein, you just need to have a variety of them over time, and you'll be able to cover your bases, even with certain grains. That's why things like rice and beans are staples in certain places. All right, next, if you are a meat eater, we want to focus on small portions of high quality meat, and we could go over that in a later video as well. That's too much to get into right now. Once or twice a week max. Now, there are some benefits to eating meat occasionally, some of which are obviously the benefits of collagen, of getting enough iron and B12, which is a big thing with vegans. So if you are vegan, you really want to make sure you're supplementing with at least B12 and potentially other minerals if you're not getting a variety of plant-based sources of protein or eating whole foods in general. So that's something you want to watch out for. Daily dose of nuts, another great source of protein and fat. So if you're looking to fill up that plate, simply using a handful of any types of nuts, really all nuts to some degree will be of benefit for the most part. So try to add nuts either as a snack or as part of your dish. I'd recommend getting them either plain, just unaltered at all, or getting them roasted or maybe roasted with salt, and that's it. Once you get into the other flavors, you're gonna run into some of the issues we're gonna talk about later. Next is fermented food. So you might have heard it's become a big thing, especially nowadays. Probiotics are everywhere. Where do you get them? Well, you get them from fermented foods of all types. We're talking about things from miso to kimchi to sauerkraut, and there's a ton in between that. The reason why fermented foods are so good is because they contain beneficial strains of bacteria. And if you didn't know, bacteria cells actually outnumber human cells in our bodies 9 to 1. So there are 9 times more bacteria cells in our guts than there are human cells in our entire body. So we want to make sure we have the right bacteria strains thriving in their environment, similar to any other biome out there. The next two, they kind of go together, and I'll give you a resource at the end. So we want to make sure we're choosing organic when possible, and we're drinking clean water. Now let's start with the organic. There's a lot of stuff out there where there is some difference between organic foods and conventionally raised ones, and that has to do with pesticides, herbicides being used, genetically modified crops. A lot of these things can actually alter the gut bacteria and have negative effects on our health. Now, if you can't choose organic foods every time you're going out to eat, it's actually much easier to do when you're plant-based, because generally buying produce is cheaper than buying high quality meats. So it actually helps save money in the long term. Now, if you can't buy organic, if it doesn't fit into your budget, a great resource to use is actually the Environmental Working Group's website, ewg.org. They actually have an app as well on your phone. I believe it's called Smart Living. And what they have is a list. They have two lists actually. It's called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And they update this list every year. And what they do is figure out which foods are best to buy conventionally and which ones you should absolutely buy organically raised. And that, I think, is a great tool to have go to the store. Next is clean water. Now, again, I live with a dentist, so this is a much bigger deal. There is fluoride in our water. There's also if you look on the EWG's website, you could actually plug in your zip code and find all the different chemicals that might be in your tap water. So if you are drinking tap water, I recommend using a filter. We use a clearly filtered one. It's been great. It helps filter out a lot of different toxins. And if you're drinking bottled water, that's actually even less regulated than tap water. So you really either want to get that checked, know what you're doing, or invest in a filter. It could go a long way. So the next one is eat until you're 80% full. Now, there are studies dating back even to the 30s, to the 1930s, that even small amounts of caloric restriction will actually help improve lifespan and quality of life going forward, believe it or not. And there actually is a difference between eating until you're not hungry versus eating until you're full. And that difference could actually can have huge health impacts down the road. Finally, on this side, just to not overwhelm you, it is called the 80-20 rule. So ideally, you want to be prescribing to what we have outlined here for about 80% of the time at least. And if you do, you will begin to feel better and it will help your general health going forward. Now, the reason why this rule exists is because I understand real life gets in the way. We have birthday parties and weddings and friends get together all the time. Like, these things are real life. But the important thing is you plan that into your schedule going forward, so you know when you might go out and get a little, either it's drinking a little bit or eating how you might not want to. If you plan that in, it's much easier to stick to this rule. So what I really recommend is planning things out a week ahead of time or so, and kind of know where you're going to be and then schedule what you eat accordingly. I think planning is a really big part of this. Finally, we're going to look at the things to avoid. So simple carbohydrates. This is actually fairly easy if you're following the outline listed on this side, because that cuts out a lot of simple carbohydrates like white breads, white rice, pastas, things of that nature. Now, there are bean-based pastas and other alternatives you can use, and I think we'll get into those in later videos. But simple carbs, they will leave you hungry quicker, and they also spike insulin levels, which over time can lead to insulin resistance and potentially diabetes and even other diseases associated with insulin resistance. So it's really important to eliminate those. Eating out of a box or bag, that's a big one as well. So generally, if you're not consuming produce, then you might probably eating out of a box or bag. It's just a general rule to abide by. I mean, there are good things you can get, but it's really important to focus on then the ingredients and reading all your labels. So a general rule, especially if you're starting out, is if you can't pronounce it or don't know what it is when you're reading the ingredient label, just skip it. It's a safe, easy rule to just not kind of get caught up in what's going on. So if you either can't read the product, the ingredient, or you don't understand what it is, or you don't know what it is, chances are skipping it's probably a good idea. Now, because that leads to the processed food. So generally, if they have those things, those are processed. If they're in a box or a bag, they're probably processed to some extent as well. Again, just to recap quick, we want to just take a whole foods kind of plant-based approach to eating. And again, this is going to help increase your energy levels, improve your health overall, help you kind of live a healthy life long term. And again, that's what we're looking for, right? Sustainable changes. And these are sustainable. Again, if this looks overwhelming to begin with, take one of these at a time and start building them in. You'd be surprised at what you can do over weeks and months. So don't get overwhelmed, take it step by step. And again, feel free to reach out. You can check out our podcast for tips. You can check out our free recipes we give away on our website, evokehealth.com. So you can check that out. And if you like what you're hearing here, please subscribe, share with someone who you might be interested with, and don't be scared to reach out. I'm happy to talk with anyone I can. And yeah, until next time, see you then.